France is the ultimate dream destination for so many people, but if you don't do your research properly, then chances are that you might regret your decision of moving here. There are some struggles that very few people talk about, so if you're planning to move to France for studies or for your career, then you might want to know this before you make your decision. If you're new here, hi, I'm Rhea and I am an international student living in Paris. I'm currently doing my master's at Schema Business School. In this video, I'll share with you 4 of the reasons why people might regret moving to France. Now, this isn't to scare you because France is a wonderful country, but I think that you should be well informed of everything before you make your decision. Now, let's start with the job market because this is probably one of the top reasons why people want to move to France. Now, finding a job as a foreigner is not easy, especially if you're not from the top business schools. Now, if you want to study in France, then you should aim for the top 5 or maybe top 7 to 10 business school overall and in your specific field of study. For example, if I look at finance, which is what I'm currently studying, I would then look at the top 5 business schools in masters in finance in France. So I would try to get into one of these schools. If your school isn't well ranked, then it becomes a lot harder for you to find a job as a foreigner. You'll see most of the international students, they don't stay in France after they graduate, but they move to countries like Germany, Netherlands, or the UK. This also comes down to the language barrier. If you don't speak French, it's going to be harder for you to find a job. I'll talk more about this in a minute, but a lot of international students even go back to their home countries because they either can't find a job in France or the language barrier is just too difficult to get passed through. It's important to do your research about your school, check the ranking, the accreditations. I've made a much more detailed video on this, which I will link up here and also in the description box below so you can check it out. But knowing what you can expect, what kind of job, salary, in which company or country, knowing all of this is very important before you choose your school. Now let's talk about the language barrier. Now, a lot of people might tell you if you don't want to stay in France, don't learn French. But let me tell you that French is essential if you want to stay here even for a year or two. Because in the beginning, when I did not speak French at all, it was really tough for me. People are not that open if you don't speak French. I would naturally start the conversation in English and without saying bonjour. And the response that I got from them was really harsh, I would say. Even your day-to-day tasks can become really difficult if you don't speak the language because everything is going to be written in French. In the beginning, I was so reliant on Google Translate, even the Google images that translate everything, because for example, if you go to the post office, you don't know how it works. Even if you go to the metro, you need to know how to read the signs or else you'll just get lost. So just a lot of these day-to-day tasks can feel quite challenging, especially if you know that you're on your own. But the reality is that if you make at least a bit of effort, for example, saying bonjour when you enter a boulangerie. I would never forget this now, but if you say bonjour in the boulangerie, they would be a lot nicer to you, even if your French is still bad. From what I've seen in business schools, a lot of the associations and clubs are targeted towards French people, or the majority of the members are French. So even if you want to join a club, it's going to be a bit hard for you to integrate well if you don't speak French. If you know you're coming to France, you should start learning French immediately. It doesn't matter what level you reach, but any kind of basic knowledge of French is going to benefit you. If you don't want this kind of language barrier, or if you just don't want to learn a new language, then you should probably reconsider coming to France. There are other European countries like Germany or Netherlands where English is more widely accepted. But in my opinion, if you're coming to France, even just for studies, you need to know French because otherwise your life is just going to be really tough. This next point is something that you will face if you've seen pictures of France or Paris on social media. I think that social media tends to romanticize everything. So you might have high expectations of Paris and then you might get disappointed when you face the reality. When I wanted to live in France, I thought that I would wake up with a view of the Eiffel Tower. I would probably sip wine on my balcony, but my reality is very different. The apartments and studios here are tiny, especially if you're on a budget. The studios can be as small as 9 meters square. In my studio itself, my bed is literally right next to the kitchen. I don't really have a bedroom. My couch is my bed, basically. A lot of the studios here don't even have toilets inside, but they have a common toilet for the floor. So you're basically sharing the toilet with 6 other strangers who live on the same floor as you do. Now, Paris is beautiful. There are moments where it feels unreal, but you need to come here with realistic expectations. And as long as you understand what to expect, you won't really be disappointed. Okay, so now the last challenge is finances. You already know that France is not cheap. If you're taking a loan to study here, on top of that, if you have to manage your monthly expenses, it's not going to be easy. You can find part-time jobs in Paris in English. I've already made a video of it. I will also link it up here and in the description box below so you can check it out. But most of the time, it's going to be really hard to rely only on your part-time job for your monthly expenses, because chances are that you don't have the same schedule every week, so your classes change. That's why you can't really predict which day of the week you can work, and if you get a part-time job for the weekend, it probably won't be enough for you to sustain for the month. And classes can be really hectic. You might have a lot of assignments and group projects to do, so you probably would be busy with that on the weekend. And as an international student, you can only work a certain number of hours every week. If you're thinking of moving to France, then I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that it gave you a big picture of what to expect so that you can make the right decision for yourself. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Instagram and I will try my best to help you. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.